Hello, National University Virtual High School students and National University Academy students studying AP US History B. This is review of Unit 7, Assignment 1. This is Part 2 and 3. We're going to look first at Critics of Consumer Society on page 845 and 848 and answer the writing prompts below. Let's look at the first one. According to William H. White and David Reisman and C. Wright Mills, what was disturbingly flawed about life in the 1950s? Well, first thing was a change from, as they saw it, the old Protestant ethic with its emphasis on hard work and responsibility to a new social ethic that was centered on the team with the ultimate goal of belongingness to being together. This was, of course, White's characterization of it. Reisman and C. Wright Mills went on to add that Americans of the suburbs were drawn to conformity, same car, same house, Edward Scissorhands, cookie cutter life. Citizens are afraid to stand out, so it looked, and would much rather blend in with the crowd. And then they ask you to discuss this yourself and to respond. It says, were their concerns justified? Why or why not? Now you get to make up your mind on this one. You could say some concerns were well warranted, while others maybe weren't. Americans of the suburbs were conforming maybe too much as they accepted these new amenities, but the development was such that it led to rapid manufacturing of these homes, and maybe this was simply part of the boom. Said everyone lived in the same house, drove in the same car. Concerns about people losing their religion and search for acceptance. You had the volatile time of the late 50s and early 60s, where you had a lot of people questioning their faith. You had a lot of the beatnik culture and the poetry. They have a picture there of Jack Kerouac. So a lot of this added to people's fears about communism and a takeover of American values. That Protestant work ethic is still there, and that wholesome America was still there, very much there in Americans as they worked to improve the nation. And let's look at our next topic to prove that point. The reaction to Sputnik. Read the reaction to Sputnik, page 847, 846, and answer the questions below. Do you think the United States would have invested so heavily in space exploration without Cold War impetus of being in a race against the Soviet Union? I think it's safe to answer this one with a no. There's nothing like push factors related to defense to force your math, science, and your innovation to move forward quickly. The push factors here, getting into space as the Soviets were doing, made the United States want to compete. So, did they have to compete? Maybe not, but yeah, I think given the fact that the Cold War was very real in the minds of Americans at this time, it was certainly very much a part of how they understood themselves. They had no choice but to compete with the Soviet Union in space. So the response to Sputnik was maybe an overreaction. However, its results were fruitful. You could say that the emphasis on improved science and math classes, the emphasis on focusing on improving education in the country was a very positive one. Did the American people need the kind of stimulus to carry out social and educational changes? Well, they probably didn't need it, but to get the work done quickly, it certainly put a fire at their rear end to get them going. Why did NASA favor manned space flight over instrument probes that scientists preferred? Well, despite the risks, I think the United States there wanted to show that they could put a man in space, to show the Soviet Union that they were superior, because Sputnik, even though the Jupiter program put somebody in space, it was another thing to put a human being in space, not to mention Laika, the dog, that the Soviets will put into space. I'll let you answer that last question. Number 4, did President George Bush call for manned spaceflight to Mars reflect the same point of view?